Isaias Afwerki has never faced an election in the 3 decades he's led his country. He tends not to mince words about why this is the case. Isaias cannot stand to take a mandate from the people, as that will limit his powers. He believes his stewardship is necessary to safeguard the integrity of the young republic he believes he steered to independence. He doesn't do it for fun or glory, as he explained in a rare personal interview in 1996. Isaias said he dislikes politics, but views it as a sacred duty. Whenever justice is missing in a society, it always grates on you, he said. This calling, he explained, has come at a tremendous personal sacrifice, forcing him to put aside his own personal, artistic and literary pursuits to lead his nation. I do not like the life of a politician, he continued. I don't even like to live like a president, given that's the way he feels. It should come as no surprise that by all common understandings of what these roles entail, he doesn't do politics, nor does he live like your regular president. At the age of 62, Isaias told a visiting German parliamentarian in late 2008 that he is healthy and expects to live another 40 or 50 years, during which he hopes to continue to lead his country. The mere suggestion that he needed a mandate from the Eritrean people took him by surprise when a journalist fielded a question about when polls might be held in the country. What elections? Afwerki brusquely responded combatively before launching a seemingly unrelated diatribe against the United States. We will see what the elections in the United States will bring, and we will wait about 3 or 4 decades until we see genuine, natural situations emerge. Maybe more, who knows, he said with a chillingly straight face. His style of engagement with the media, seesawing between reclusive aloofness, a combative engagement, is refracted through his regime's foreign policy. His country had a thorny baptism in regional geopolitics, directly warring with all its neighbours and Yemen, and extending its influence as far as Congo, where Eritrean forces helped bring Laurent Kabila to power in 1997. His 3-decade-old vendetta with the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, put him among the architects of Ethiopia's war with the organization in Tigray. The US reimposed sanctions on the country for its role in Ethiopia's war, where Eritrean forces are accused of gross human rights abuses of war crimes, ending a brief 4-year interlude where Eritrea was sanctions-free. Like his old friend Gaddafi, Isaias revels in the anti-American tough guy brand. He's now cultivated, although he once supported the US war in Iraq, offering it a base. He more recently sealed his position among an isolated club of states, including Iran, North Korea, Russia, and Syria, when Eritrea voted against a Junga resolution condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This didn't surprise observers of Eritrea, as its foreign minister visited South Ossetia and Crimea after Russia occupied both territories. But ultimately, Eritrea was never big enough for Isaias, and he was always too aloof to engage with bodies that might limit his influence. When he attended his first continental summit in 1993 with the AU's predecessor, the Organization for African Unity, he viewed the EU as a tool for American hegemony, calling the organization an abject failure. Eritrea only joined in the spirit of familial obligation. He held East Africa's regional body IGAD in similar contempt. He also worked with Gaddafi, an old ally, on an ambitious bid to form an alternative body to the African Union called the Community of Sahel-Saharan States in 1998 to no avail. Early life, the guerrilla years, very few have been so resistant to change throughout their lives, despite the significant changes in their fortunes, as Isaias. He has always been notoriously brutal, hot-tempered, secretive, and unwilling to indulge any opposition. He created and lived through history, betrayed and was betrayed, and made and broke, lives with the same demeanor today as he had when he was an adolescent revolutionary. According to former colleagues of his we interviewed, the jaded emotional view, he said in his 1996 interview, was fostered with time and loss of colleagues. You then ask yourself, am I not human? He added. American journalist Robert Kaplan first met Isaias in the mid-80s during the heady days of Eritrea's independence war. Isaias's moustache, clipped perfectly then as now, sat perched above a mouth, which when open in public delivers, Kaplan said, a cold, authoritative style of speech. In his book Surrender or Starve, Kaplan observed that Isaias had affected a military disposition, a rock-hard stubbornness and indifference about how he realizes his goals. This trait would both serve and undermine him during his stormy political career, the second eldest in a family of 8. Isaias was born in Asmara under British rule in 1946. He was never one to accept second fiddle, and according to people who grew up with him, this trait was a crucial part of his character since childhood. He wanted to captain all his neighborhood football teams, always insisting on sitting in the best seat available at home. He slapped an American high school physics teacher who gave him a bad grade. But it was in Eritrea's independence movement where Isaias made his name. He first joined Eritrea's independence movement with the Eritrean Liberation Front, TERAF. Unlike most of his colleagues who joined the armed struggle after leaving their studies in good standing, he left Haile Selassie University after failing his freshman exams. This factor may somewhat explain Isaiah's inferiority complex towards his comrade, which he eventually eliminated, and why he attempted to wear the robe of an intellectual. Kaplan believed Isaias was the most intellectually interesting politician in the history of post-colonial Africa. Clinton similarly extolled him as a Renaissance African leader. Though he presides annually over military graduations at SOA, he has never attended a university graduation ceremony. Michael Gaber, a member of an elf cell with Isaias in Addis, feared Isaias would form his own power center in the organization. According to Haile Duru, Isaias and himself joined the elf to split it and create their organized. While Gaber wasn't wrong about Isaias's intent, he certainly underestimated his ambition. Isaias could not accept being a member of the elf leadership. He needed an organization where he commanded absolute authority. After he returned from China, where the elf sent him for military and ideological training during Mao's now infamous Cultural Revolution, Isaias's return would be decisive for the future of the Eritrean liberation movement. Thus, diplomatic notes said he was turned off by the cult of personality surrounding Mao, but internalized the need to eliminate political opponents, leading him to the summit of Eritrea's liberation movement. The first challenge to his leadership, after splitting from the elf, was in 1973. Some of his former colleagues and classmates called for democratic decision-making and more accountability from the leadership. The dissidents were labelled Amekes, Tigrinya word for bat meaning those who moved at night. The ringleaders were executed and others imprisoned for years. This challenge led to forming a notorious and highly feared security apparatus, Haliwa Sora, another Tigrinya word for guardians of the revolution. This apparatus proved a crucial tool for Isaias to consolidate his grip over the EPF and its successor, the People's Front for Democracy and Justice, PFDD, which existed only in name since 2001. The US ambassador to Eritrea quoted his Chinese counterpart, who said that Isaias learned all the wrong things during his stint in their country. All decisions were his. There was no space for alternative views. Eritrea's former central bank governor, a diplomat, Anderberhan Weld Georgis, who the president fired for refusing an order to transfer funds illicitly, said the air vibrated with tension during their meetings. He got so furious and agitated that his neck veins seemed about to burst, Georgis wrote. His temperamental unwillingness to accept anything but his view was also displayed when he hosted a dinner for us embassy officials in 2008, where he became involved in a heated discussion about tomatoes. Isaias complained that despite his wife's efforts, some tomatoes she was growing came out too small, to which a legal advisor responded that cherry tomatoes are meant to be small. Afwerki stormed out of the room, surprising even his security detail. Development policies, Some observers and unofficials applaud Isaias's development and self-reliance policies. The Eritrean regime prides itself on achieving the Millennium Development Goals, particularly in the health sector, such as reducing maternity child mortality, improving maternal health, and combating diseases like malaria. In Eritrea's response to the Universal Periodic Review of the UN's Human Rights Council of 2014, the government stated that its key national priorities are creating and enhancing a conducive environment for its citizens to exercise their fundamental human rights in the broadest definition of the term. But the EU indicates that the country is facing considerable challenges. Ensuring food security, providing and updating essential social services, and combating youth unemployment. Regarding health services in the country, it is worth noting that Eritrea is the only country in Africa that has denied its population COVID-19 vaccines without any explanation.